Okay, so I'm going to go through some of these radical inequalities. So hopefully you can hear me. I am actually standing at my board, so I have the computer a little bit further away from me. So, okay, here's what you do. You're just going to solve. Here's 3 steps. You're basically going to solve the inequality, okay? I like to do inequality like that. And then you're going to actually, for any of these, you're going to go and check the domain, okay? And we'll see what we mean by that in a minute, okay? And then, hold on, and then we're going to go and test our intervals. Whether we think we need it or not, let's just test our intervals anyway. Okay, so I'm going to move this over here and get it out of the way. Okay, so I moved it out of the way so we can get to work on this. So square both sides, just solving the inequality. All right, so you end up with 4x plus 5 less than or equal to 100. And then you basically just go work it out. 4x is going to be less than or equal to 95. X is going to be less than or equal to 95 over 4. So there's one of your answers. You go ahead and put that over here. And now we got to go check our domain. So I'm going to erase all this and come. All right, when you check your domain, you basically are looking either, if it's a fraction, the denominator can't be 0. If it's a square root, it needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So anything underneath the radical sign has to be greater than or equal to 0. Otherwise, you're going to have imaginary solutions, and that's not going to work. So let's go ahead and say, well, square root, well, you really don't have to say square root. You can just say 4x plus 5 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Anything under here has to be greater than or equal to 0. So let's go ahead and solve it and see what our domain is going to be. X is greater than or equal to negative 5 over 4. All right, let's go put that over here. Now, I think this looks good, but we're going to test just to be sure. So I'm going to erase this again. Okay, now I've made a number line. So my number line is going to have my critical points on it. So 95 over 4, obviously, 95 over 4 is going to be on the right side. I think that's something like 23 something, 23.75. So 95 over 4 is here. The other interval or the other critical point is negative 5/4. It doesn't matter that they're that far apart. It's no big deal, okay? Because you're just going to pick some numbers that are on either side of these, okay? So on the left side right here, let's pick a number that's less than negative 5/4. I'm going to pick negative 2. That's easy. Negative 2 is definitely less than negative 5/4. In the middle, I'm going to put something that's between negative 5/4 and 95/4. I love 0. 0 is easy to do. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to pick something that's greater than 95 over 4. So if this is 23 and 3/4, then this is probably a number that's bigger. Let's go with 25. Okay? So let's test each of these 3 points. So I'm going to do the first one. So remember, 4x plus 5 has to be greater than or equal to 0. That's all we're testing. So we've got, I'm not getting much room here. I got to go over here. So 4 times negative 2 plus 5, is that greater than or equal to 0? No, that is not going to be greater than or equal to 0. Cross that interval out. Let me erase and let's test 0. Oh, one time. There we go. Recording. Let me get the sticker back. Okay, I don't know what happened, and I don't know how much of that other stuff that you had to see me going through the screens, but somehow I got a big circle on my screen. I don't know how to get rid of it. So anyway, we were testing if 4x plus 5 has to be greater than or equal to 0. We already checked number 2, so now we're going to check 0. So 4 times 0 plus 5, is that greater than or equal to 0? Yes, it is. So we'll keep that. Now we're going to go and test whether 25, this region that has 25, is going to work, okay? Now we're not testing really 25. We're testing any number greater than 95 over 4. So we're going to do 4 times 25 plus 5. Is that greater than or equal to 0? Well, obviously it is. That's 105. Greater than or equal to 0. So yes, that works. So when I thought my answer was right, because of the inequalities, some things get a little bit mixed up. So you've got to remember, you've got to account for some positive and negative things happening. So our answer is going to be x is greater than or equal to negative 5 over 4. And that's about all you need, because it's just going to keep going and going and going. All right, let's go look at another one. Hold on, I knew something was wrong. So when you put in 25, all right, say you put in 25, so what you're going to do, this didn't make sense with the whole equation. Even though it worked with the domain, it didn't work with the whole entire equation. So let me try to get this. Okay, well anyway, here's what the equation looked like. Square root of 4x plus 5 is less than or equal to 10. Yeah, that 25 is going to be positive, but once you put all that in, you get the square root of 105 less than or equal to 10. No, that's not going to work, because that's 10 point something something. So it does have to stay. This doesn't work. All right. So it basically stays as the intervals that you have already right here. And all we're going to do is write them out in one inequality. We're going to say negative 5/4 is less than or equal to x, and that's less than or equal to 95 over 4. I'm sorry about that little thing. I completely forgot to go back and check all that. It is 3:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, and I'm still at school. All right, so there's your answers right there. All right, let's go on to the next page. See what we got. I got something going on. I'm going to have to pause for a minute. Okay, so now we're going to go and try this one. Now this one is much harder, but really not. Oh, I don't know why I'm cubing it. So let's go and square both sides. It starts out really easy. You end up with m plus 2 less than or equal to 3m plus 4. Solve your inequality. And you end up, I'm going to skip that so you guys can go and do that, because I'm going to run out of time. Okay, so I worked it out, and I got negative 1 is less than or equal to m. But if you flip it around with the symmetric property, you get m is greater than or equal to negative 1. All right, that's the solution. Now let's go and deal with the domain. Now remember, anything under a radical sign has to be positive. So we're going to go and play around with that. I'm going to go turn this purple. So m plus 2 has to be greater than or equal to 0. So m has to be greater than or equal to 0. I mean, equal to negative 2. So negative 2. So there's another one of our answers. So m is greater than or equal to negative 2. And then you've got another one, though, that 3m plus 4 has got to be greater than or equal to 0 also. All right, so you end up where you've got m is greater than or equal to negative 4 over 3. So here's our second one. All right, so m is greater than or equal to negative 4 over 3. Now, we do need to test these because they don't always work. So let's go test and make an interval. We kind of missed this in second period today. So we got that fixed. All right, so here we go with that. And then I'm putting them in number line order. These numbers are actually very, very close to each other. They're not actually to scale, but whatever, we'll get it figured out. So let's put some numbers in between. I'm going to put, there's no 0, so we can't do it. So we're going to do, -3, -1.5. If you're not sure where I'm getting my numbers from, go ahead and check to see what these are equivalent to, because these numbers actually are in between these fractions. And then one more, let's go ahead and use 0. I love 0. All right, so now we're going to plug each of these numbers in. All right, I'm going to go and let's plug in -3. Square root of -3 plus 2. Now look, it's going to be negative. You know right now it's not going to work. So let's just not even bother with the rest, okay? Then the next one will be -1.5 plus 2. Is that less than or equal to square root of 3 times -1.5? That's -1.5 plus 4. Okay, well this one comes out to be positive, but this one is still going to be negative because this is -4.5 plus 4, and that's going to be negative. So that's not going to work. Let's try the next one. We'll do -1.2, which is in between -1⅓ and -1. So now let's try that. So we've got -1.2 plus, so yeah, that works. All right, is that less than or equal to 3 times -1.2 plus 4? All right, this comes out to be, I think, 0.8, square root of 0.8, less than or equal to, this is going to come out to be 4 minus 0.36, which is 0.4. All right, they're both positive, it's all good, but the equation's not true, okay? Square root of 0.8 is not less than the square root of 0.4. So that part's not true. Okay? So now the next part that we got to test our last one, see if any of that works. I'm hoping it works. So now we're going to put in 0. So square root of 0 plus 2, less than or equal to the square root of 0 plus 4. We can already tell that this is true, obviously. All right, so this part works. So the only answer that works, the only part that works is right here. Any number greater than or equal to -1. So m is greater than or equal to -1. And that is it. Okay? All right, I am going to go do the test review. Actually, I am going to do the homework problems in the next video because I'm running out of time on this one. This one was just the lesson. So I will send the homework problems in a minute.